forego the 45-minute dreary lecture that children normally enjoy, Keeping It Real opts for a more interactive model that teachers and DARE officers noted children didn't hate. Student engagement was markedly higher. It's not a regular anti-drug program, it's a cool anti-drug program. You could tell a surly teen to just say no until you're blue in the face and pat yourself on the back for all the good work that you did that day. But in the real-life scenario that this same teen is offered a fistful of bud, the odds are pretty high they panic and say, "Okay, sure," and just take some of that devil's cabbage. Keeping It Real arms teens with more tools in their belt by approaching potential drug solicitations in more realistic terms. The core of the program is in the acronym: refuse, explain, avoid, and leave. Real proposes at first offering an explanation for why they don't want to do something, or if possible, attempt to avoid the issue. I see Billy is offering meth to my classmates. I think I'll take a different route home, economy, and I can just leave and go somewhere where there is no meth. The great thing about this program is it's applicable to so many other scenarios in these young kids' lives. The goal of Keeping It Real is to help kids get out of any situation that makes them
play Desperate Housewives.
Almost as if teenage drug use is a symptom of being a complicated
Isn't that really just The Sims?
Into a society of insecure,
if you think about it,
cruel teenagers, and not the cause of all their problems. And you know the best thing about Keeping It Real? It actually works.
Keep it real, y'all.
The results so far have been overwhelmingly positive, according to a report from the Scientific American that concluded students who completed Keeping It Real indicated they used drugs and alcohol less than those in the control group that did not. The report claims the skills and ideas taught by Keeping It Real are more likely to stick with students and reduce substance abuse at a rate that was 72% higher than the control group. The old boring snooze fests of DARE pasts have been replaced with student interaction and group work.
Back in my day, kids were doing cocaine and meth like champions. Now all they want to do is sit inside and play Fortnite.
Indiana, a DARE officer for 16 years, the interaction and group work are awesome because we learn by doing much more than by hearing. When they learn the ways to say no to friends, they absolutely love getting up in front of the class and acting those out. The world doesn't need any more drug addicts or alcoholics. But what they definitely do
That was premium Coke. Just say no. You don't have to blow a guy's money.
Alcohol and cigarettes? Let us know in the comments below. And while you're at it, check out some of these other videos from our weird...
This video was made possible by Dashlane. Try Dashlane for free on your first device by heading to dashlane.com/HAI. Here's a joke for you. What do you call a rock in the middle of the ocean? A sea shale. Get it?
Oh.
Shale like the rock, then... You know what, I shouldn't explain it. Here's another one. What do you call two rocks in the middle of the ocean? Well, if you're Japan, you call it the island of Okinotorishima. Emphasis on island. Alright, that one wasn't funny, but let's be honest, the first one wasn't either. The island, and I'm using the term island loosely here, of Okinotorishima is found here in the Philippine Sea and was first discovered in the mid-16th century, possibly by this guy in 1543, and definitely by this guy in 1565, who named the then 5 rocks and surrounding coral reef Parece Vela, meaning looking like a sail, in recognition of how sails, as we all know, look exactly like 5 medium-sized rocks. In 1789, it was rediscovered by the English, who in classic English fashion assumed they were. The Japanese first visited in 1922 and 1925, then claimed it in 1931 and named it Okinotorishima, which translates to stupid tiny rocks that are in a strategically useful location that we're just going to lie about and say we just want for nature observation. Sorry, that's a mistake. It means remote bird islands. I mixed up Google Translate and Google Foreshadowing again. Anyways, because of Okinotorishima's strategic location between Taiwan and Guam, Japan wanted to build a military base on it, but to avoid controversy, they used a clever little technique called lying and said they were going to build a, quote, lighthouse and meteorological observation site. They began construction in 1939, but after a few years they had to stop because of a little conflict you probably haven't heard of called the Second World War, or as I call it, World War II, Two World II War. To the United States, adding to their rock collection, which includes Plymouth, Fraggle, and The. But in 1968, the US was busy with its national pastime of fighting wars and decided to re-gift them to Japan. Now, you might be wondering why the US would give up a valuable kind of island for no real reason, especially considering they've been holding on to useless islands like Baker, Howland, and Rhodes for centuries.
Oh!
Okinotorishima didn't really become valuable until 1982.
That is some shade on Rhode Island.
Got together and
Lenolal, Kyo, why don't you play
which they
Why
could have
don't you
called
want to
something
play
cool,
Desperate
like
Housewives?
The Treaty of Versailles or something, but they instead decided to name the 1982 UN
Well, I'm
Convention
not
on the
desperate and
Law
I'm not a
of the Sea.
housewife, so it's
Among
a
other
hard game
things,
for me to
that
relate
convention
to.
laid out the rules of exclusive economic zones, or EEZs, which
I
allow a
mean,
country
wait,
to claim
am I a
all of the
housewife
water within a
technically?
radius of
Oh my
200
god, I think I
nautical
am.
miles, or
I like to
307.4
cook.
kilometers, or
I like to
189,385
sing.
for the rocks of their
I
shores
think I might be a
as their
Disney princess,
EEZs.
guys.
To be clear, they don't have sovereignty over that water, and it isn't part of their country, but they do have a number of rights over it, including rights to exploration and dibs on valuable natural resources. That's why Japan really wants these two dumb rocks to be an island. It means they get to claim this entire 154,500 square mile area as their exclusive economic zone, which means they would have exclusive access to its rich fishing grounds, rare metals, and suspected oil reserves. But that claim is hotly disputed, but not because people say Japan doesn't own.
Yeah, that's a big thing nowadays. Is the whole dispute over like
Japan owns it. They
exclusive economic zones and oceans.
And by they, I basically mean China. Why, you ask, does China care? Well, apart from China wanting to have a monopoly on dumb fake islands, if the US ever wanted to send military troops from Guam to Taiwan to do military stuff, China sure would love to be able to give them a super special surprise of a bunch of submarines in their way. But to do that, they need to make a map of the ocean floor, and they need surveys for that map, and they can't do those surveys in Japan's EEZ. Plus, there's oil there, which people tend to get mad about because, oil. So you're probably wondering then, is Okinotorishima an island or not? And the answer is probably or not. You see, the UN Convention on the Law of the Sea specifically distinguishes between islands, which they define as, quote, a naturally formed area of land surrounded by water which is above water at high tide, and rocks which, quote, cannot sustain human habitation or economic life of their own, and, quote, shall have no exclusive economic zone or continental shelf. These rocks can't really sustain human habitation or economic life on their own because, they're rocks, but that hasn't stopped Japan from pouring an obscene amount of money into trying to convince people otherwise. In 1987, they started building steel breakwaters and concrete walls around the rocks to protect them from erosion. In 1988, they built the Japan Marine Science and Technology Center, which isn't actually on either of the rocks, but it's near them, so good enough, I guess. And finally, even though the UN Convention clearly says that man-made islands don't count, they built an artificial third rock because, as we all know, the only
They're just hoping no one notices.
useless rocks
Oh, wait, whoa.
rocks.
A third island? How'd that get here? I have no idea. Third islands, they just drop out of the sky.
Spending $600 million trying to keep two rocks above water is dumb, but you know what's smart? Making everything you do online faster by using Dashlane. Dashlane is a mobile and desktop app that gives you a shortcut for everything you do online, offering one-click logins and autofilling personal and payment info at the touch of a button.
Okay, let's see. What new videos do I have?
The universe, a story of heroic alien dinosaur warriors fighting back against the relentless forces of evil alien dinosaur warriors. And the only way it can end, the only place it can end is here on Earth. This is a battle 250 million years in the making. Hi, I'm Dan Larson, and this is the history of Dinosaucers.
Dinosaucers. Oh, hey, Gargoyle.
We have previously covered the Dinosaurs toy line as an oddity episode. It is quite possibly the rarest toy line ever. Check out that video for a bit more in-depth look at the toys exclusively.
The rarest toy line ever,
probably wearing a different shirt
Wow.
in that one, but I'm not so confident that I'm willing to put money on it. Dinosaurs is a 65-episode animated series that first aired from September to December of 1987. It follows the heroic dinosaurs who have fled their homeworld Reptilon, pursued all the way to Earth by the evil Tyrannos. Once on Earth, the dinosaurs enlist a group of teens dubbed the Secret Scouts who help them navigate the landscape of Earth, both literally and figuratively. In exchange, the kids get to do things like ride flying motorcycles and hang out with talking dinosaur people. There is no downside. Dinosaurs is a bundle of amazingly effective, focus group proven marketing dream come true sellable elements. It's not just that dinosaurs are from space with dinosaur spaceships and spacesuits, but they talk, fight, and have the ability to devolve into their prehistoric, pre-evolved forms. The good guys do, anyway. And when they activate that power, they retain their intelligence and flexibility to change back to their evolved forms. The Tyrannos want that power, but the best they can muster is a devolving ray that physically does the same thing, but also devolves the brain, turning them into mindless creatures. It is, on paper, one of the greatest toy and cartoon concepts ever conceived.
It's like Jurassic Park.
On paper. Dinosaurs was an international co-production of DiC Animation in Canada and, hold on to your butts, Coca-Cola Telecommunications in the United States. Coca-Cola making soda and television? Look, when you're the soda king, you do what you want. Coke had just won the Cola Wars by utilizing the new Coke Faint. They were high on caffeine and flush with the original recipe cash. Dinosaurs was created by one of the most important movie producers of all time, Michael Uslan. Michael's story is a classic American tale. A boy who loved Batman amassing a
No, Steven Spielberg's movie is a classic American tale.
Living in New Jersey, hoping to one day break into Hollywood. While attending Indiana University of Comics and school systems and the psychological impacts, serious shit. In the late 70s, he began doing legal work for various Hollywood productions. Apocalypse Now, Rocky II, Raging Bull. That work facilitated a transition into being a producer on film and television projects. When you want to get into the industry, when you're chasing a dream, you find a way.
I'm chasing the dream, Adrian.
Benjamin
You're never going to
purchased
stop me
the film
chasing
rights
my
to Batman
dream.
from DC Comics.
Oh no,
Michael
Adrian, my dream got
back
away
to
on
his
me.
darker roots, show the world a character more like what Bob Kane had introduced him as, get away from the cartoon character of these 60s live-action TV show and 70s Super Friends animated series. Every studio he pitched it to passed, looking for something more like the live-action 60s TV show and the Super Friends animated series. Michael retreated and wrote a script called Return of the Batman, which he says tonally is more in line with Frank Miller's Dark Knight Returns and existed 6 years prior. Not that anyone's counting. Batman
Who cares?
was officially
Dark Knight
announced as being
Returns
in
sucks.
production in 1980, but that project still had a long way to go. Meanwhile, Michael had other ideas. Michael had a son who, like most kids, was into two things hardcore: space and dinosaurs. He liked going to the Museum of Natural History and he liked going to the planetarium. It wasn't long before Michael started to play with the two concepts based on the highly precise market research he had conducted. The name Dinosaurs was just a name. He needed more. He drew upon his comic book heritage. Those space lizards were going to need sidekicks, the Secret Scouts. 4 kids helping the Dinosaurs. David and Sarah were named after his kids, Paul after his brother, and Ryan after his cousin. He enlisted the help of some of his Hollywood and comic book friends to ultimately get him in touch with Joe Kubert to begin developing character designs. With the concept and imagery in hand, he coordinated animation production at DiC and distribution through Coca-Cola Telecommunications. It was one of the first Michael Uslan, Benjamin Melniker productions. He wrote nearly a quarter of the episodes himself. One season,
This time for
65
Simic
episodes,
ki
and like
ASMR.
all of the big 80s properties, a whole line of action figures. On paper.
Os monstros do planeta Reptilum chegaram. Dinosaurs.
O que é isso? São tiranos! Dinossauros, alerta! Cuidado, Bonhead! Eu sou preso! Temos que salvá-lo! Então tome essa, e mais essa!
Coleção Dinosaurs da Graffiti.
The plan, on on paper, was to have a full line of action figures, playsets, standard operating procedure for any kid-focused brand launched in the 80s. Had things gone according to that plan, you probably would have seen comic books, board games, Halloween costumes, and probably a game on the ZX Spectrum. Hasbro was initially involved with the production of a line. Concept images were created, but stylistically they didn't fit what the producers were looking for. No harm done except for a loss of time. Galoob acquired the license and had to hustle up to get back on a production schedule that would get toys to shelves in time to coincide with the launch of the show in September of 1987. Galoob planned to release a full line of posable 8-inch action figures, 4-foot inflatable figures, 2-inch scale figures that would be packed with the dinosaur spaceships, and a full lava dome playset. They hustled, they did their best, they got preview images out ahead of the holiday season so orders could be placed, but then the Ishtar hit the fan. A Sharknado of events Titanicked Dinosaurs before it could ever Masters of the Universe. In 1982, Coca-Cola purchased Columbia Pictures. Columbia were responsible for the 1987 film Ishtar, which became the 4th worst box office release at the time of all time. It made $14 million worldwide against a budget of $55 million. That's enough to Pluto Nash a whole studio.
Wow.
And it did. Coca-Cola stockholders started getting anxious. Everybody was having second thoughts. Why didn't they just stick to bubbly caffeinated brown syrup? They just recovered from the New Coke debacle. Wink. Now they're hemorrhaging Ishtar money. Coca-Cola Telecommunications lasted about 1 year. Coca-Cola made the decision to spin off all of their entertainment holdings to TriStar. Unfortunately, that meant that all existing properties were terminated and/or the responsibility of the new owners. Maybe the show was good, maybe it wasn't. I can tell you as someone who watched it when it aired, I watched it when it aired. I like dinosaurs and I like spaceships and also cartoons. This was right in my content consumption wheelhouse. I also didn't have the critical tools as a 10-year-old to determine whether or not it was good by artistic standards. The first season of Dinosaurs had already run its course before Toy Fair 1988 when Galoob was actually able to show the prototype toys. And at that point, what was the point? Nobody's buying without a show to support the line, and nobody can guarantee that the show will ever air again. But Dinosaurs got a second life internationally. It was still airing in other markets, and a Brazilian company called Glassleet had already signed on to handle some of the international production and distribution of the toys. Glassleet had manufactured and distributed toys for Thundercats, Star Wars, Bionic 6, A-Team, Masters of the Universe, Karate Kid, and Rambo. So when Galoob dropped the whole thing, the molds were already licensed by Glassleet, who still had customers looking for toys. Glassleet produced 5 of the 8 figures, and they are super rare, as we covered in our video. Is Dinosaurs the rarest toy line? Spoiler alert, it's in the running. They are super rare, and even crappy condition pieces go for Brewster's Millions prices. 8 episodes of Dinosaurs were released on 4 VHS tapes in 1994, and that's it. They're super rare, just like the toys. They've never been released on DVD and only occasionally show up on streaming services. Sony purchased Columbia Pictures in 1989, and that's where the rights sit today.
I was
Sony
gonna say,
has no
maybe
current
it's
plans
like
to do
public
anything.
domain.
In the meantime, Michael Uslan became one of the biggest movie producers in the world. Batman finally came out in 1989 and changed the complexion of the character as a cinematic entity forever. Michael went on to produce every single Batman movie that has been made since, including those based on Batman the Animated Series and a lot of other stuff, like Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego, Fish Police, Swamp Thing, Catwoman, National Treasure, Constantine, The Spirit, Teen Titans Go to the Movies, and more. In 2018, Michael took a swing at a Dinosaurs revival through Lion Forge Comics, written by Uslan himself, featuring artwork by Andrew Peepoy and a few others to close out the final issue. It doesn't look or feel like the original series, and for the most part was dismissed by fans of the original show. A bitter transmorphers when what they wanted was Bumblebee. The spirit of the Dinosaurs is kept alive by the fandom online. One person in particular has led the charge and kept the fire burning all these years. Hans Geyer, aka Master Turtle Customs on Instagram, has for the last 5 years been digitally recreating, 3D printing, and hand-painting very limited run reproductions of all the original action figures. He even went a step further and designed and produced all of the figures that weren't manufactured. It is a fan effort that was targeted at potentially acquiring the license and releasing a classics line of figures, a revival like so many other 80s brands that have had similar modern update treatments. All the work has been done. All he needs is the legal go-ahead to start production, which Sony has declined to grant him. But that doesn't stop you from checking out his amazing work and
Somebody's like,
appreciating
no, we
that
don't want to
level
make
of
money.
Despite having a full season of 65
No,
episodes and being
stop.
created by
Don't
one
give
of
us
the most prominent
money.
Hollywood producers of all time, Dino Sausage was a
Guys.
short-lived obscurity within the larger scene of 80s cartoons and toy lines. For those that knew it,
Onward, comrades! Glory to motherland! The attacks are no match! Retreat! Run away! They brought Svetlana! I have come to beat your meat. I have finally lost it. Could you lost the 102 to teach you basics of cooking, how to use knife and a cutting board. My name is Boris, born in the year 90 in a small town called and today you learn to cook like me, like a true star, like Boris. Yes, Boris! This is going to be basically extension of the video of how to survive 4 weeks on a tight budget. Click here to see it or link in description. But now, let's get into video. Step 1. Check out your tools.
He has an axe.
These are the tools you're going to use. A basic kitchen knife, a Kalashnikov bayonet, a meat hammer, or Svetlana
Kalashnikov bayonet!
Svetlana, of course, and the Govnik's butter knife. Brick and chains are not available at the moment. They're currently used in other projects. So okay, I'll show you one by one what is do. It is a basic kitchen knife. When it's sharp, I do not so much. Generally used for splitting items into 2 or more pieces. Fuck, сука! You see, this is what normal knife look like. Normal sharp edge, no пиздец has been done. Nobody tried to cut rocks with it, and never Vadim has not borrowed it to renovate his toy yet. Usually, this lasts a lifetime if sharpened correctly. Yes, I'll show you, hold on. This is a Kalashnikov bayonet. You get this as gift in mail once you advance from basic knife, which for me was 8H10. Again, very well maintained. Yes, small indentation on side. For better cutting onion, of course, it requires slot in the back, so you can use as expansion. Just Svetlana's small brother. You can use this to flatten meat if you want, but me, I have no time for these small toys. I use big suka. Just a meat cleaver, also good for making 2 buterbrod at a time, no problem. Handsaw, good for cutting sausage, when knives are dirty. Svetlana, time, no problem. Handsaw, good for
Oh, he spelled sausage there. S-O-S-I-G.
cutting sausage, when other knives are dirty. Svetlana, when you really want your meat to be flat. And the Kopnik's butter knife, which I have made a full video of. Go check it out. It's a splitting axe, especially sharpened for Boris. Especially good when class or work start in 5 seconds, you're running late and you want to make 4 buterbrod at a time. Блядь. Much better. This is all you need for get after tools. This is the instrument you will be using most of the time. This is a knife. Use handle to hold on, do not touch operationally. Use it to cut things into many things. Why does not things already come in pieces? I hear you asking. Well, some things do. Others do not. Do not point tip of knife toward you. Never cut yourself. Otherwise, пиздец. Do not cut yourself. Do not use your cooking knife to cut wood. Otherwise you get dull. If you did already manage to use it for cutting wood, here is how we fix.
How to sharpen knife?
Otherwise none is how to sharpen a knife that cannot even cut through butter. Check out your sharpening steel and throw it away because these do not do shit. But instead, get grandfather's sickle sharpening stone. Few slices each side with this suka. We cut whole field of potato with this shit. Or just use a knife sharpening device if you're lazy. This is a cutting board. This is how you use a cutting board. This is how you do not. Know the difference? It could save your life. Did this happen to you? You're hungry and you want to cook some macaron. You insert your mind and you think you want to eat. Looks bad, right? But end up with
Ay, suka.
enough to feed the whole Soviet Union. No, so do not waste food. Use scale to measure exactly who has a scale anyway. Use a measuring cup to know exactly how much a measuring cup. Ah! No. How rich you think we are here? Use a normal cup. A small one like this or big one. Once you know how much this makes, you'll know to make double or triple the amount next time. No, wait, hold on. Cups, who are we joking here? All your cups were carried away by drunk friends this Saturday. Use the one tool that you will always have with you. The ham. At this point I do assume that you have full access to your hands. If you do not, I am sorry for your loss. Just invest in a measuring cup. and or better friends. You see, your hand is always same size, which means you always measure same amount. Check my head measuring cup in university. Блять, we used to carry around toilet paper around. Even that shit custodian for closed dorm rooms. This is one handful. Good for light snack, but if you're eating just macaron with mayonnaise, then add 2 handfuls. First eat water, roughly twice the amount of macaron. Wait for water to boil, insert macaron into water. Boil for about 7 minutes.
7 minutes.
Here we have delicious result. A bit of Dr. Sausage cheese it is the start of month. And a generous amount of... Shut up, блядь! I'm educating the world here. Macaron Mondays. Good times. So remember, already
that looks
done.
pretty good,
1
actually.
handful for light snack. 2 handful if you have to get full on just macaron. 3 handful you're making macaron salad for whole family. And 4 you're clearly having party and you not care if cups get stolen or not. Cooking oil is not some magic liquid. It is basically liquid
Pasta
fat
is
in
weird
a
when you
can.
think
So when
about
I see
it
people
because
being
it's like just really
generous
thick
with
bread.
the oil while cooking very basic things, then you can be sure I will be having the семечки course for the evening. This is not cooking. This is fucking ridiculous. You're wasting perfectly good oil, which could be used for making чебурек. So, generally, fatty meat like pork needs no oil. It lubricates the pan itself, you see? But chicken have little fat, so add some oil. Even Dr. Sausage does not need oil. Or if you have high-level cooking like Commander Boris, even egg can be cooked with that. So use little tiny bit, or not at all. You always see this world-class chefs saying,
Ooh, that's a
look
nice
at my
cutting
medium
table.
well-done cow muscle. We don't do that shit here. Meat is either done or not done, not in between. It's cooked or stomach virus. So this way we need to know exactly when meat is done. Here is quick tip. Since we do not have access to open fire during quarantine time, and for whatever reason this apartment does not have a normal gas stove, can we make our own?
Hey, I know that from Eurocomp.
This is shashik, made of pork. Has set to marinate for about 2 days for best taste. Slide this in. Now you see, when you have raw meat and you poke with a knife or a sharp stick, then it feels soft. Look at this wobbling around. The meat is right inside. What can I do? Of course, we cook. Well, блять, do not try at home. Professional Boris at work. Nice.
That's actually a really bad idea. Don't
So
ever
it's
do
been
that
going
if
for
you
a
have one
good
of those.
5 minutes now, and you want to know how it is doing. You remove from the flame, and you poke with the same stick or knife. As you can see, it is not as soft as before. This piece is almost completely solid, so generally the softer it is, the more raw it is. Let's cut it open to test this theory. And what we have? Well, we have a bad example. Is a lot of fat here, but still could use a bit more flame. So what you do? Sacrifice 1 bit every 5 minutes? No. You end up with empty stick after that. Instead you poke them all and wait for the softest one to get ready. And this is why it is very important to make every shashik piece the same size. It took me 5 years to get to that point. We have cooked it for about 5 more minutes. Let's see what is the result. As you can see, it is still soft. If you have hit the toughness of a rock, please start again. Now that is one ready piece of meat. As you can see, no red, no pink,
This goes
just
against
meat
the Twitch
cooked
terms
through.
of service.
Done.
I shouldn't show porn.
And that is all for today's lesson. Thank you for watching. In next lesson, we boil potato and learn how to use the bay leaf. See you next time. Stay chicky-breaky.
Akbar the Great was the 16th century Mughal ruler of India who led his empire to never before seen heights. In a land of countless cultures and religions, his reign is almost universally revered today not just for its impressive military conquest, but also its incredible administrative reforms that ushered in a new age of progressive multiculturalism which united India for the first time in over a millennia. Today, we'll be reliving the rise of the Mughals and the reign of
Where are the
Akbar
viewers?
Great.
I don't know.
This video was made possible by our patrons who
I'm
requested
just
today's fascinating topic.
Streaming and
The era
not
we
giving
are
a
looking
shit.
at is the
So,
tail end of the
I
medieval
mean, no,
period in India.
I shouldn't say I
For
don't give a
several
shit. I love that
centuries,
you
this
guys are
subcontinent
here
had
and
seen a
chill and
long
watch and
succession
chat.
of powers vying for control of the region. Increasingly, this had included
It's helped a lot with
external
loneliness
forces.
lately, having
The rise
people
of
just
Islam
to
in the
chat
7th
to
century
as I
and the
watch
ensuing
videos,
Muslim
even if you guys aren't
conquests, for
chatting all the
instance,
time.
ratcheted
It's
up the
like,
intensity of
it's
northwestern
heartwarming
raids,
to know,
which had
you know,
long
other
been a
people are
feature
watching
of
stuff
Indian
with me.
history.
I just wish
Invading
we could,
Muslim
like,
forces
I don't know, have
managed to
couch
gain a
snuggles or
foothold,
stuff.
which was eventually expanded into the Delhi Sultanate in the 1200s and went on to control much of the subcontinent.
Or I could make you a
The
coffee or
Mongols,
something.
too,
I don't know.
would launch several invasions in the 13th and 14th centuries, which managed to occupy the border regions but were ultimately rebuffed by the already entrenched Delhi Sultanate. At the same time, there would be many counter-conquests led by the native
Whoa,
Hindus,
my corner
with
Delhi
a
had a
dizzying
sultanate?
amount of consolidation and fragmentation taking place across India. This swirl of action made it a truly transformative period of cultural and religious mixing. Thus, by the end of the 15th century, when our story begins, we see an India that is split up into a variety of regional powers. To the far north are the remnants of the declining Delhi Sultanate. They are flanked to the east by the separatist Sultanate of Bengal, the tribal Hindu kingdoms of Gondwana and Orissa, and the expanding multi-ethnic kingdom of Ahom. To the west, they are flanked by the Rajput Hindu states and numerous dynasties in river valley regions like the Sindh. In the center of India are the 5 Deccan Sultanates, fragmentary remains of the Bahmani kingdom which had itself broken off from the Delhi Sultanate. To their south lies the predominantly Hindu power of the Vijayanagar Empire, which had coalesced to ward off invading Islamic armies. And further south are the island inhabitants of Lanka. And perched over all of this were the remnants of the Turco-Mongol Empire of the Timurids. It is from this Central Asian group that the Mughals would arrive, and in fact derive their name. The Mughal Empire was founded by Babur, as one of the many Timurid princes vying for control
Babar.
of the vast
I know
territory.
him. He's
He
an
launched
elephant.
numerous
He's
campaigns
funny.
from his holdings in modern Uzbekistan. However, after more than a decade of fighting, Babur proved unable to make much headway in the west, and instead turned east. In 1504, his forces seized Kabul in Afghanistan, and later took the strategic region of Kandahar in 1522. From here, he would launch 5 successive raids into northwest India. The last one in 1525 saw an elite army of over 10,000 descend on the Delhi Sultanate, armed with a strong cavalry force and state-of-the-art artillery. Babur would pick up additional allies and mercenaries on the way, which raised his numbers to around 20,000. However, they were countered by a massive army of the Lodi dynasty, which is reported to have fielded over 50,000 men and 1,000 elephants. The two would clash decisively at the Battle of Panipat in 1526. The engagement began with Babur setting up fortifications to deal with the approaching enemy. He anchored his right flank against the city of Panipat, while his left flank was protected by a trench. The center was reinforced with a long barricade made from hundreds of carts and additional breastworks. Breaks in the line were created to allow the army to sally out when necessary. When Babur deployed his troops, he sent forth light skirmishers to form a screen in front of a formidable entrenched gun line made of bowmen, matchlocks, and cannons. Behind them was the core of the infantry and heavy cavalry, ready to plug gaps in the front line or sally out in attack. On both flanks were then deployed light cavalry and horse archers for harassment and envelopment duties. On the opposite side of the battlefield, Sultan Ibrahim Lodi deployed a front line of armored elephants with heavy cavalry flanks, protecting a center of inferior but numerous foot troops. When battle began, the novelty of the gunfire terrified the elephants, which panicked and made a mess of the approaching enemy infantry. Babur's screen fell back behind the defenses, drawing the enemy in, while his cavalry wings and mobile reserves swung around the sides to slam into the Delhi flanks. These tactics devastated the enemy, which dissolved into a rout, losing their commander and nearly 15,000 men in the process. The Battle of Panipat was a turning point in the invasion. In the aftermath, Babur went on to capture the major cities of Delhi and Agra, overthrowing the Delhi Sultanate and founding the Mughal Empire. However, his position would not go unchallenged, and over the following years, many battles would be fought with local powers.
I always
Much
thought
of the
those little
violence
things in
took on
Final
a
Fantasy
religious
were
angle
so
as
cute.
the Muslim armies wrought particularly bloody carnage on the Hindu and Sikh communities they encountered. Ultimately, however, Babur would successfully defend the new empire. Yet he would not have much time to consolidate his holdings or enjoy the spoils of war, as within 5 years the newly crowned emperor died of illness in 1530.
Oh no, did he
Babur
get
would be succeeded
COVID-19?
by his 2 eldest sons, Humayun, who inherited the new Indian territories in the east, and Mirza, who inherited the older territories to the west. The 22-year-old Humayun faced the daunting task of pacifying and consolidating the freshly minted realm. His primary opposition in these matters came from Sultan Bahadur of Gujarat to the south, and the former Mughal ruler Sher Shah Suri.
Wasn't that a thing
in
Lord of the Rings, the Gates of
Humayun
Bahadur
first
or
made a push to
something?
drive back the forces of Bahadur, which were now being equipped with gunpowder weaponry provided by the Portuguese. The campaign proved successful at first, until Humayun was forced to yield ground to counter an invasion coming in from Sher Shah. This new threat proved far more
not Bra,
dangerous,
Sher
as the
Shah.
eastern commander was a fierce
Sher
warrior
Shah,
and clever
Bra.
general. Over several months, the invasion would carve a path through the Mughal Empire, which was suffering from revolt and betrayal within the royal
Siri
family.
Empire.
Bested at the Battle of Chausa and the Battle of Bilgram, the pressure grew so great that Humayun was forced to flee as a refugee towards Sind in the southwest, effectively turning his domains over to Sher Shah Suri. While in exile, Humayun's pregnant wife would give birth to a son in 1542. His name, Jalal-ud-Din Muhammad Akbar. As an emperor in exile, Humayun had to engage in much travel and politicking to safeguard his current position and future prospects. As a part of these arrangements, the young heir
it's
would be
unfortunate
sent to the
because
stronghold of Kabul
he
for
could have had a
safekeeping
great
under the
career as an
watchful eye of his
admiral,
extended family.
telling people that
Akbar
things were
would spend his
traps.
youth.
This is a trap,
According
that's a
to
trap,
chroniclers, he is reported
it's
to
a
have been
trap.
educated as a warrior, which included the typical tropes of hunting, running, and fighting. Though these came at the expense of learning to
I
read and
wonder
write,
if
the
Admiral
youth had an
Akbar was
inquisitive
actually
mind
named
and
after
would
this
routinely have
Akbar
servants
that
recite passages
George
to him in
Lucas
the
or whoever
evenings.
wrote it came
At
by
14,
coincidence.
Akbar
It's like,
was made viceroy
yeah,
of the
Akbar,
Afghan
that
province and married
we'll
to his
use an
9-year-old
Indian
cousin.
name for this fish
In
guy. That sounds
commemoration
like
of
what
this
we should
event,
draw from.
Emperor Humayun lavished on his son great wealth, attendants, and soldiers. Meanwhile, back in India, Sher Shah Suri had been hard at work expanding and reforming
Meanwhile, I'm
the
sitting here
conquered Mughal
concerned,
domains.
wondering, like,
His achievements
wait,
would be greatly influential to
Luke
the region and lay
Skywalker.
the groundwork
So you're
for
telling
much
me
that
in
was
the
to come.
far-flung future of the
However,
universe,
these
there's
efforts
still
would be cut
names
short
that
in
have that
1545 when Sher
influence
Shah was
of
killed
the
unexpectedly
Bible's
by an
disciple,
explosion whilst
Jesus'
conducting a
disciples,
siege.
Matthew,
This
Mark, Luke,
triggered
John,
a
those
chaotic
guys?
period of succession that ultimately resulted in the fracturing of the Suri Empire within a few years. This moment of opportunity would be seized upon by Humayun, who led a swift reconquest of his
It's like it
throne
turns out Luke
that captured
Skywalker is
Delhi by
actually like a
1555.
born-again Baptist or
However,
something.
tranquility once again proved fleeting. Within just a few
What?
months,
There used to be
the Emperor
black
too would be
Jedi?
dead, falling prey to illness and passing on the crown to the teenage Akbar. For the time being, the young regent served mostly as a figurehead, while his guardian, Bayram Khan, ruled on his behalf. The situation was precarious. The death of Akbar's father had once again weakened the crown and opened the floodgates to armed contenders. The Suris now swept back in, recapturing lost land and pushing on Delhi. One of the greatest adversaries to rise out of this period would be Hemu, a gifted Hindu general who was reported to have won over 20 consecutive engagements. His furious assault was on the verge of forcing the complete withdrawal of Mughal forces from the east. To make matters worse, the Mughals of the west, in Kabul, were facing their own invasion and proved unable
He
or
mad.
unwilling to
No,
offer help.
he moved.
To meet this crisis, Akbar and his guardian Bayram Khan re-marshaled the Mughal army
Sonic
in
High
India.
School Part 2. There's
They
a
then
Part
led this
2.
force out, striking at the most powerful of their enemies. Several encounters would follow, with another huge clash at the Second Battle of Panipat.
Sponic. Hey, you lied! There's no... Oh, is there? Oh, it's not going to be the same without... Because it's a big book that a kid made. Well, like, these guys reading it was one thing, but I don't know if, other people reading it will be good.
Standing here, but all I want...
Are you sure there's a second part? So this second part, is it just the text, or does someone actually read it? I'm trying to think, what's something...
Finally, I've been summoned! It's time to destroy everything in this city! Huh?
We are the Power Rangers, and we're here to stop you from doing evil things!
Oh no! Not the Power Rangers!
Jason, he's too strong to fight in this state.
Indeed, Billy. It's morphin' time!
Oh no! Not morphin' time! Wait!
Mastodon!
Pterodactyl! Triceratops! Saber-tooth tiger!
Tyrannosaurus! Rah! We are ready to morph into action!
5 working together to fight evil!
To stop Rita and all her menacing monsters! From destroying our planet Earth and ruining the universe with evil!
Look out, monster! We're not backing down, because we are the Power Rangers! Tyranno Power!
Cosmic Cannon!
Double bow! Double daggers! Mighty mace!
Those Power Rangers are pretty intense. Lucky they took so long to do their morphing thing. Man, what am I doing with my life? I've got this stupid helmet, I look like a frickin' pig, I'm not cut out to be a monster! These Power Rangers are just too...
I'm sorry. Are you okay?
Yeah, it's okay.
You seem pretty down there, buddy.
Yeah, I just don't know what to do with my life anymore.
Maybe I can help. I'm a psychiatrist. Just call me if you want to talk.
Oh, okay.
See you around, buddy.
And that's when I started my new life. I started seeing Dr. Rick, the psychiatrist. He helped me get back on track. I got a job, met some nice people, and had some great times. I found a new way of living, working out and eating healthy. I met the love of my life, got married, and brought a life into the world. My life finally had meaning. I was...
Are the Power Rangers just gonna show up and start beating him up out of nowhere?
Thanks, guys. Where would I have been without you?
They were still morphing? Metamorphosis!
Ready!
Power Blaster! Ready!
Yep, called it.
Good job, Power Rangers!
Yeah!
Harold?
Erich Ludendorff, German Army Quartermaster General during the Great War, virtual military dictator for much of 1918, and apparently the guy Wonder Woman killed, though that's not in any actual history books that I ever read, said after that war that it had been a triumph of French trucks over German trains. He, more than anyone else, ought to know. But what about German trucks now in 1941? Let's find out. I'm Indy Nidell. This is a World War II in real-time special episode about German motor vehicles in 1941. I know. Could it get more exciting? I don't think so. Anyhow, you can really see what Ludendorff meant during the 100 Days Offensive, the final Allied offensive of the Great War. The overall strategy there was, in addition to some major actions, to continuously hit the Germans with small offensives, one after the other, at different parts all along the line so quickly that the Germans would not be able to send in reserves to where they were needed and would basically die the death of 1,000 cuts. Germany had no rubber, so if they used motor vehicles at all, they used ones with steel tires that destroyed the roads. And they could not, in fact, keep up with all the attacks with the rail system and no speedy point-to-point troop transport. The Allies, however, used a huge fleet of trucks to move their men from point to point, keeping the Germans off balance.
Those are like military double-decker buses. That's amazing.
Huge fleet of trucks to move their men from point to point, keeping the Germans off balance and whittling them down.
This is why I love history, because you'll see Like old
Post-war,
pictures
in
like
the
this, you
20s
just
and
have
30s,
crazy shit
that
like
experience
double-decker
colored
military
a few people's
buses.
thinking in the German military. And when Adolf Hitler came to power, one thing he really wanted was for the Third Reich to be a totally modernized thing. The Nazis promoted cars as the modern successor to the railway, and they did so to the point that by 1939, there were fewer locomotives and train cars in Germany than there had been in 1914. But motorization brought the promise of a battlefield of quick movement, which would seem to be the solution to a war of attrition like the Great War, the type of war Germany absolutely wanted to avoid in future. But just that idea of super motorization has consequences of its own. It can take over 1,500 trucks to equal the carrying capacity of one double-tracked railway line. And sure, for shorter distances and for ease of travel to locations without rail infrastructure, trucks win hands down. But once you get into any real distances, like more than 200 or 300 kilometers, and you start considering things like all the operating personnel, maintenance, fuel consumption, always a big one, and breakdowns and repairs, then trains are far, far and away the better option. Germany also has the specific case of not being able to domestically produce rubber and oil needed for motor vehicles, but producing plenty of coal and steel needed for railways. So David Stahl postulates, by pursuing motorization and neglecting the railways, Germany created a situation where neither infrastructure was able to meet the demands of war. That's a very strong statement. If you're curious how he backs it up, he offers a fair amount of figures. When Germany invaded Poland 2 years ago, they did so with 16 divisions that were fully motorized and so were basically independent of the railways. But the whole rest of the invading army was divided in a small column zone in which the actual army divisions operated, and a large transport area which covered the area between the divisions and the railway depots and stations. For the divisions, each one was allocated
Kyo, how much
942
trucks can a
vehicles,
truck truck if a
excluding
truck could
motorcycles,
truck
and
trucks?
1,200 horse-drawn carts and wagons.
A truck would truck
for
as
all
many
their
trucks
stuff.
as a truck should truck, but
for
a
the
truck
large
cannot
transport
truck that many
area,
trucks
to
if it
get
does not
them
truck
stuff,
trucks in
there
the
were
trucking
only
truck
3 transport
trucks.
regiments for the entire army. That's like 9,000 men and some 6,000 vehicles to get everything from the rails to the marching columns of the whole army of millions of men, horses, and machines. That will only
It's like something I
provide a
feel we
pretty
always
limited
overlook whenever we talk
supply
about
and only at fairly
military
short
conflicts
distances.
is the
So to
sheer
increase this, the army has been
mind-boggling
taking over
like
civilian vehicles. That increases
statistics
capacity,
of troop transport.
but makes worse the already thorny standardization issue. In 1938,
Like people
before
don't
the war, for
realize
example,
what was it I read?
There were 100 types of
I think
truck
they spend
and
about $1
53
billion
types of
each
car
year
in military
on
service. That
the
is going to
air
lead to
conditioning
serious
budget
parts and
of
maintenance
the U.S.
concerns in any
military.
case. By February
Or wait, no, I think it was
1940,
$1 million.
Not too long before the invasions of Western and Northern Europe, German Army Chief of Staff Franz Halder noted that the Army had 120,000 trucks. So they couldn't keep any in reserve because they needed all that. Accidents and basic wear and tear cost roughly 2,400 trucks a month, but their replacement number was only around 1,000 a month. So Halder actually wrote on February 4th, their replacement number was only around 1,000 a month. So Halder actually wrote on February 4th that the end result was deterioration in the operational ability. So the shortage was worsening every month, even without the mechanical issues and losses on the battlefield any active campaign would cause. How to solve this? Your first thought is probably increase production, but because of the rubber supply issues, that won't solve the problem. They can only physically do so much with the rubber they have. So how about this? Requisitioning 16,000 trucks from the civilian economy, and during the 7-month respite from truck loss that this would give, going through a demotorization program, meaning if they then afterward needed fewer total motor vehicles, then production could more easily keep up. This, though, requires more horses and horse-drawn wagons. Clearly, such a plan would further polarize the split between motorized divisions and the rest of the army. The worst, however, was yet to come as continued tank production and Hitler's latest decision to arbitrarily double the number of panzer divisions resulted in many more trucks being required to provide for their movement and
We need more
supply.
panzers!
The
I need more
infantry divisions
panzers!
Are thus forced to shed an even greater share of motorized vehicles, finding themselves ever more dependent on horses and wagons.
Yep, that's another thing
Fast
people
forward to
don't
this
realize
year, a
about
few
World
months
War
ago,
II. Like, the
and
German
vehicle
army
losses
used a
have been
lot of
offset
horses.
somewhat by the addition of 13,000 French trucks.
We have this
They also
image of
bought a
this,
bunch
like,
more from the
super
Swiss.
industrial
Well,
military...
that
You know
really
who
helps
was
with
the
numbers
industrialized
problem.
military
Here in June, it
superpower
leads to
of
this.
World War II?
There are now
Britain.
over 2,000 different types of vehicle in service in the German army. And just Army Group Center has to stock 1 million kinds of spare parts and then eventually distribute them correctly. The
So it's kind
18th
of funny
Panzer
how, like,
Division
people
has
want both
96
parts
different
of,
kinds
like,
of personnel carriers,
Germany being
111
this
kinds of
amazing
trucks,
super
37
producer
kinds
of the
of
greatest
motorcycles.
tanks in anything
The
ever,
biggest issue with any
but at the
motorized
same
supply
time
chain
being this
is
poor,
fuel.
oppressed country that, like,
Gilbert
oh, they were
Thomas, Chief
just
of the War
fighting to
Economy in the Defense
survive.
Department, tells Halder this week that fuel supplies will be exhausted in the autumn.
So that's how they,
Aviation
like,
fuel will be
justify
down to
loving...
one-half. Regular fuel to
Like, it's okay to like a
one-quarter.
tank
Diesel
for
and
its
heating
mechanical
oil would
structure,
be
but
at only
there's
half the
certain
required
people that,
levels.
like,
On June
idolize
12th,
tanks, and
the
you can
department
tell it goes
issues a
beyond
request
just,
that the
like,
Galician oil-producing
a
region
machine.
be
It's
occupied
like an
as soon as
object
possible
of
during the coming invasion of the Soviet
politics or
Union.
something for some
I have
people.
not mentioned that yet today, but as we know, in just days, Germany is going to invade with the largest invasion force in history. Halder does not pass on the request, though, writing in his diary, "Political questions. I refuse to allow economic considerations to influence the operational direction." It was Thomas, by the way, who in a January meeting had told Halder that for Operation Barbarossa, the invasion, they needed 13,000 tons of rubber a month. Germany could produce 7,300. The stocks they had at that time would be used up by the end of February, and they were relying on South American blockade runners to bring in 12,000. Also at that meeting, the fuel situation was described as having enough for deployment in the East and 2 months of operations. So Halder decides, based on this, to go for speed. No railroads, no stopping, now it's increased motorization. Okay, fine, sure. But one thing, the Army has increased to over 200 total divisions, so motorized transport has decreased percentage-wise among each division. And motor vehicles have been seriously concentrated in the Panzer and motorized divisions. So the Panzers themselves have to be loaded with supplies, since the infantry plodding along maybe hundreds of kilometers behind them won't have the vehicles to eventually maintain supply. The Panzers get two-wheel trailers to pull that carry 400 liters of fuel. Extra ammo is also squeezed into each tank, so they are as self-sufficient as possible. See, the operational goal of Barbarossa is a short-duration campaign that should be won between the border and the Dvina-Dnieper line. The German army's supply system was simply incapable of adequately sustaining anything further than a penetration of about 500 kilometers into the Soviet Union. Beyond that, they would absolutely have to rely on the railroad system. But the Soviets use a larger gauge rail than Germany does, so they're not compatible. Now, I cannot see the future and how Barbarossa will go, but I do know that the German planning for the next phase of the operation assumes the large-scale capture of Soviet trains and only minimal sabotage damage done to the railway network. To me, this seems pretty optimistic, since every time in history that someone invades Russia, the Russians destroy anything that could possibly be of any use in a scorched earth policy, but I guess we'll see about that soon enough. And that might never even be a thing anyhow. If
Yeah,
Germany
like
can
people,
achieve
another
their
thing I feel
operational
people
goals
overrate is
quickly
they think,
and
oh, that only
decisively,
happens if you
they
invade
are, in
Russia. But
fact,
any
enough to
country that's
win.
big enough,
It's interesting,
like you
because
saw
Hans
aspects of it
Guderian,
in the
who we've
American
seen
Civil
before,
War,
will be at the forefront of the attack,
the
leading
policy
his
of
Panzer
scorched
group
earth
as one spearhead
is
of Army Group Center.
anytime you can
That's not
deprive,
the interesting
you have a
part,
large enough
though it is interesting. What I mean is that he
conflict
wrote the book
where you
Achtung
can
Panzer, published in 1937,
use those kind of
and
tactics.
in
So
it wrote,
it's not like Russia's the only
"How
one
will
that
the
can do it.
army
Like
as a whole
Canada,
be supplied
America,
with fuel,
China are all
spares,
countries
and
that can
replacement
perform very
vehicles?
similar
And
tasks.
how will we be able to move our large mechanized formations, and especially the ones that are road-bound? A positive answer to these two requirements is a precondition for the deployment of large tank formations, not least for the use in the operational dimension." This is food for thought, right? I mean, tanks can go over fields, and men can march over fields, but trucks and wagons need roads, and it is they that are the supply lines. So how will the German army answer these two questions in the Soviet Union? How will they handle the road-bound issues?
Funny, like the great
How will they
irony of
supply
World
the
War
Panzers?
II is that
Above
instead of
all,
building
how will
tanks,
it
the
be
Germans
different in
should have
the
built
East
roads.
as opposed to the West? In terms of fuel, a network of roads and highways and keeping your motorized vehicles rolling and replenished, it's going to be quite different. In France, of course, the distances were much shorter. It's just 260 kilometers from Sedan all the way to Calais. The Germans also managed to take Allied fuel dumps, and the Panzers had regular gasoline engines, so they could fill up at roadside gas stations. None of this will apply in the Soviet Union, since there...
Just imagine World War II and the Panzer tank pulls up.
You can capture
Hi,
is useless
could
until
you fill
can
it
treat
up,
it.
mine
You need
good
special
Frenchman?
treatment facilities for that.
Where
As
are
for
you
getting enough
heading
wheels,
today, Fritz?
10
That is a
days
very
into the
nice
French
ride you have there.
campaign, Edward Wagner,
We are
in the
heading
quartermaster's
to
office, but now
Paris
quartermaster
as
general, asked for and
ein
received
zusammenhang
permission
was
to gather all
Ja,
available
Tourist on my
motorized
side?
transport
Ja,
in
Tourist.
Germany
We are
for the
heading
army.
to
That was
Germany,
after 10
I mean,
days in France, so
we
it's
are
not
heading to
likely
France
to
as
be
tourists.
easier in the Soviet Union.
We
Stahl
like
is
to
again
tour.
very pessimistic about these issues. By comparison with the conditions in the West, the Eastern Campaign presented logistical challenges so profound that the prospect of a greater crisis of overextension was not only likely, it was preordained. And what would Guderian have thought of the road situation? The endless
I can only
plains of
imagine
Ukraine
like
and
how
the
hard it
forests
is
of
to be a
Belarus are
German
mostly
today
crossed
and have to
only
deal with
by
a lot of
intermittent
this
dirt roads. In
sort of
fact,
cultural
in the
reckoning.
entire Soviet
And
Union,
it's funny how
there
we're
are
seeing
850,000
similar stuff
miles of
play out in
roads.
like real
That's all
time
the way from
almost.
Europe to the Pacific and the Arctic to Afghanistan in the largest country
Like,
on Earth. But only
what lessons
40,000
do we
miles
really
of that
learn?
is hard surfaced road that can handle all weather and does not liquefy when it rains. Totally breaking chronology here. That's less than what Slovenia has in 2020. And no one is planning on sending 3 million men, 600,000 horses, and tens of thousands of tanks and other vehicles onto the Slovenian roads, as far as I'm aware. Slovenia is just 20,000 square kilometers in size. Yes, I realize I'm mixing miles and kilometers. Grow up, it'll take you 40 seconds to learn how to convert them. Ukraine is 20 times that size. Belarus 10, Lithuania 3. So the roads are few.
Oh, Andy dropping truth bombs. Grow up and learn how to measure and convert.
If it is to come at all.
Boom.
You see, you have in reality two separate armed forces, one mobile and one on foot, and they have by definition different operational doctrines. The basic strategy is that the panzers will forge ahead quickly and then surround large cauldrons, pockets, of huge amounts of Red Army soldiers. The infantry will close the pockets from behind. Sounds pretty solid. But then, after that, the panzers are supposed to forge ahead once more. Otherwise, they might lose the strategic initiative. But how will not only the infantry, but how will the supply trucks keep up with them then? Limited in number, limited in fuel, limited in roads, and with no military escort in hostile territory. It seems a truly daunting task.
Military
Perhaps an
escort.
impossible one. I do not know. We'll just
Conjures
have
an
to wait and
interesting
see.
thought to mind.
If you'd like to see how Joseph Stalin
Hey there,
grabbed
baby.
power in
I need
such
a military
ginormous
escort. How about
nation,
you?
You can click right here for our Between Two Wars episode on that. I would like to deeply thank our Time Ghost Army members for their invaluable contributions to this project. And as always, subscribe, ring that bell. I'll see you next time.
Bye, Andy.
Who is Frank Zappa?
Frank
See you
Zappa?
next time. Who is Frank Zappa?
Wait, what? How's Frank Zappa tie into this?
Want to know of history much of 1918, and apparently the guy Wonder Woman killed, though that's not in any actual history books that I ever read, said after that war that it had been a triumph of French trucks. This is a World War II in...
Wait, why the sudden Frank Zappa mention? Must have missed something. Oh well.
TV game shows are the one place left in the world where you'd think everything would be on the up and up. Regular, hard-working folks earning the chance to win huge amounts of money and prizes in front of an audience and millions of viewers at home. That's everyone's dream, right? Well,
No.
believe it or not, there's quite a sinister underbelly in the game show world. There always has been, but the glitz and glamour of Hollywood do a good job of deflecting the scandals. Here are some of the biggest controversies to ever come out of popular game shows. Number 10, Guy Hack's Press Your Luck. Press Your Luck was a hugely popular show in the 1980s, revolving around
These are like
contestants
the
answering
original
questions and then hitting a
speedrunners.
button to stop at a random point on the board. A bad turn would result in a whammy, which would then trot out the game show's adorable little animated goblin mascots who would do some kind of funny act while also erasing the contestants' current winnings. An Ohio ice cream truck driver named Michael Larson figured out how to hack the seemingly random game board after analyzing it for some time. He noticed the lights and patterns on the board actually had some methods to them. So he got on the show in 1984, won over $100,000 and a vacation to the Bahamas, but the network didn't seem to think it possible that his odds could have been as good as they were. While they were right, they could improve it, but the producers did reprogram the game board soon after, but the show folded 3 years later. Number 9, Pasa Palabra contestant cheated with her phone during the show. The Spanish quiz show Pasa Palabra teams up regular folk with
It's like he cheated by figuring out they were lazy and were just using a repeating pattern.
time meter, which is then used in the final round to correctly guess specific words. One celebrity who appeared on the show was Adriana Abania, whose beauty belied a shockingly bad proficiency for cheating. Abiana was involved in a music listening trivia segment where the participants had to guess a song after hearing only a short snippet. What no one knew at first was that she had her iPhone open between her legs with the Shazam song recognition app pulled up. Too bad she received a text message during that time which set the phone off with lights and vibrations. The host quickly saw this, called her out, but you do kind of have to admire the sheer ballsiness of this. Number 8, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire cheater. The British version of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire is very similar to the American version that you might be familiar with, but it's got 100% more cheekiness. Contestants answer a series of progressively harder multiple choice questions on the way up to potentially winning $1 million. Charles Ingram, a former member of the British Army, appeared on the show in 2001. Funnily enough, Ingram's wife and brother-in-law had previously been on and won their own money. When Charles came on, he had his wife in tow, as well as a college professor planted in the audience. When the multiple choice answers were read aloud, one of them in the audience would cough and Ingram would know the correct answer. It worked, at least initially. He won all the way up to the $1 million mark, but they were found out somehow. All the money was suspended, and they racked up all sorts of fines and assorted suspended jail sentences. Number 7, Who Wants to Marry a Millionaire Guy wasn't a millionaire at all. The name of the show itself is cringy enough as it is. Who wants to watch a cast of ladies show just how shallow they are and try to marry a man for his money? And what kind of guy would allow that to take place in front of him? Hollywood doesn't care though, because that was the show with purported rich man Rick Rockwell, who had to sift through 50 women to pick his true love on the reality show. We say purported because old Rick already had a history of being less than stellar. There's the story of him being abusive to his former girlfriends, and the fact that Rockwell wasn't even his real name, and he wasn't even a real estate giant like he claimed. He was actually a part-time stand-up comic. Dava Conga, the winner of the show, found all this out after the fact, and it didn't take long for her to seek an annulment to the wedding. Number 6, Super Password contestant was actually a wanted fugitive. Patrick Quinn appeared on the game show Super Password in 1988. He was introduced as a systems analyst for the government and then proceeded to win over $58,000. The thing is,
ooh, I got a
he wasn't
taco.
systems analyst, and he was actually a wanted fugitive. Quinn thought he wouldn't be discovered. He told the producers after the show that he needed to pick up his winnings quickly as his job was taking him to Turkey very soon. What he didn't know was that people watching the show
oh, whoops, sorry.
was taking him to Turkey very soon. What he didn't know was that people watching the show recognized him. Quinn, real name Kerry Ketchum, had apparently racked up some forgery and fraud charges in his home state of Indiana, and some of his victims called in to alert the showrunners. When Ketchum arrived at the show's offices to receive his money, 2 Secret Service agents were there waiting for him, handcuffs in hand. Number 5, Price is Right keeps firing pregnant models. The Price is Right has been the perfect sick day accompaniment for decades now, but it hasn't always had the most storied history. Going back to the Bob Barker days in the 80s and 90s, there have been allegations of sexual harassment and abuse from the host towards the show's models. Time hasn't necessarily helped the program learn from its mistakes either. There have been numerous stories in recent years concerning the models on the show becoming pregnant and then subsequently losing their jobs. Brandy Cochran was one such model who filed a lawsuit in 2010 after the show dismissed her. Another former employee, Shane Sterling, filed a suit that same year, also claiming a firing after her own pregnancy. The judge on this case, however, deemed that the show changing hosts...
How dare you have a baby as a woman, you sick bastard!
Number 4, dating game winner wins a date with a serial killer. In 1978, Rodney Alcala appeared on The Dating Game, the famous show.
Erich Ludendorff, German army...
the famous show where people are blindly matched up with a set of hungry bachelors. The lady who would get to choose the best man on this particular episode was Cheryl Bradshaw. After she asked each bachelor a series of questions, she eventually picked Alcala as the best of the bunch. Too bad Alcala was already convicted of raping an 8-year-old girl a decade before. He quickly showed his true self to Bradshaw after he was unveiled. Immediately backstage, he began giving Bradshaw the chills, and she declined to go on an official date with him. He didn't take that reaction well, and within the next 2 years, Alcala would become a legitimate serial killer, murdering at least 5 people. Number 3, Bullseye contestant was a
Slow down there, Tiger.
Murder again. Many murderers have
How about you talk to someone?
lead what appears to be a normal life. Most of them don't have the kind of sheer fortitude to land on a TV game show in the middle of their killing sprees. But most killers aren't John Cooper. Cooper was a contestant on the dart-centric Bullseye show in 1989 and already had plenty of blood on his hands. In fact, the episode he appeared on would be used to help track him down and convict him. In 1985, Cooper had shot a farmer and his sister to death, and merely a month after he was on Bullseye, he shotgunned down a middle-aged couple after robbing the husband and raping the wife. Years later, police would use the tape of the show to see that he actually mentioned the area where he would go on to kill the couple. They also had a sketch from 1989 to compare to his on-screen face, and it led him to finally being jailed in 2011. Number 2, man studies The Price is Right and wins to the exact cent. The Showcase Showdown is the final stage of The Price is Right, where the final 2 contestants guess the price of a package of extravagant prizes. If their guess is higher than the actual amount, they lose, but that's rarely a worry because most people aren't even close to being right. One man figured out a way to hack the game show's process and get the amount right to the exact dollar. Terry Nice and his wife Linda had a couple of gifted brains for seeing patterns in things, and they watched the show obsessively to learn how things worked. Finally, Terry got onto the show and made it all the way to the Showcase Showdown. When the other finalist passed on guessing the price of a karaoke machine, pool table, and camper, Terry conjured a price seemingly out of thin air: $23,743. It was exact to the cent, something that had never happened on the show before. The show was cut short. Host Drew Carey was visibly irritated, and allegations of cheating already started to fly around. There was even a side story of a possible plant in the audience. Eventually, Nice was awarded his gifts, but the story remains shrouded in suspicion. Number 1, 21 was totally rigged, as were most quiz shows in the 1950s. You may have heard about the film Quiz Show from 1994, directed by Robert Redford. In the film, a man wins a game show called 21, but it's revealed after a series of scandals that the winners were told the answers beforehand. The show was a real thing, and those scandals really happened, and they're almost crazier than the movie version. The NBC show 21 saw its downfall begin after an episode was won by Herbie Stemple in 1956. Stemple, it was found out later, had been coached up on the answers by the show in order to help him win. But the sponsors of the show wanted someone more appealing in the limelight, so another contestant, Charles Van Doren, was coached even harder to overtake Stemple's throne. During the next few years, it was revealed just how many 21 contestants were helped along by the show to get
gave birth to Jeopardy.
Rampant among the game shows of the time. The $64,000 question blindsided contestants with much harder questions if they were on a winning streak. Dotto on CBS was found to be giving out questions to contestants beforehand. These stories began to trickle out, and it collapsed the game show bubble for quite some time. So I really hope you found that video interesting. If you did, please do hit that thumbs up button below. Don't forget to subscribe. We got brand new videos just like this.
アクアはまつりちゃんのことが大好きだから、今は全部メンヘラとかどうでもよくて、まつりちゃんの未来配信してるんだよ。
一人称がアクアになってたけど。
私はまつりちゃんが好きだから、今未来配信してるんだよ。
そうなんだ。今日はお祝いしに来てくれたの、配信をすっぽっかして。
配信してるよ。配信しながらも
お祝いしに来てくれた。
私はまつりちゃんが大好きだから。
そうだね。配信してんだよね。
してるけど、今日はまつりちゃんに言いたいことがあったんだよ。
何？言っちゃ気になるんだけど。
ずーっとデビューした時から思ってたんだけど、言ってもいい？どうしてまつりちゃんってホロライブの清楚担当って嘘をついてるの？
嘘じゃないけど。
だってパンツかぶってるじゃん。恥ずかしいよ、そんなの。
チンチン固めっていうやつよりは恥ずかしくねえよ。
ちょっとダメだよ、そんなこと。あなたが言っちゃダメだよ。
アキロスよりはマシなんだよな、祭りは。
よくわかんない、私 IQ3 だからよくわかんない。
おちんちん大好きだよ。おちんちん大好きだよ。おちんちん大好きだよ。おちんちん大好きだよ。おちんちん大好きだよ。おちんちん大好きだよ。おちんちん。おちんちん。おちんちん大好きだよ。おちんちん。おちんちん。おちんちん大好きだよ。おちんちん。おちんちん。That's the Ochinchin song. And it's copyright. If you sing it, I will. I'm just kidding. I don't know any lawyers. I think I'm all caught up on things I was gonna watch. I don't know if anybody wants to suggest anything. Otherwise, I might just go to cursed commercials, I guess. Whoa, what is this?
Welcome to a very special Anime of the Week. As you may know, it is currently Worm Week, a completely made up week that we invented because for some reason a lot of you like worms, and I guess Worm Week is quite a catchy name. In this Anime of the Week,
that is a
we're looking at
thing.
this rather horrifying worm. The piece of gold glittery nightmare fuel you've been looking at on your screen is called the Antarctic scale worm, an animal with the mouth of a xenomorph and the body of a microfiber mop. These worms are members of the family Polynodae, the family that is made up of all other scale worms. This also makes them polychaetes, the well-known class of annelids that contain such infamous worms as bobbit worms and Christmas tree worms, so the Antarctic scale worm is in good company. So where would a nightmarish demon worm like this live? Well, of course it lives exactly where you'd expect such horrors to live, deep down in the frigid South Atlantic and Southern Ocean. You'll find these 20cm long worms at depths of over 500 meters and down, so at least they are well hidden from the world. The problem with this cold, dark and remote habitat is that it means they are very hard to study. Though you may think that this is a good thing because who on earth would want to spend more time with a worm like this, it does mean that there is not a lot to go on when, let's say, perhaps making a video about them. It is currently unknown what these worms eat due to the previously mentioned difficulty in studying them. However, all hope is not lost. As they
You
are
just give
scale
them a
worms,
Big
it's
Mac
safe
and
to
hope for the
assume they eat
best.
similar things to other scale worms. This includes crustaceans,
We have concluded they do not
echinoderms,
like
various
American food.
zooplankton, and of course other scale worms. Perhaps one of the most interesting things about the Antarctic scale worm that we do know is the way in which it feeds. The head-like appendage that is seen in most images of the scale worm is actually normally hidden. This mouth folds into the main body of the worm, so most of the time all you see is the nice pretty golden body. When feeding, the head then strikes out of the body like a xenomorph from the Alien franchise. This in some ways makes the worm even more terrifying than before, because you might not even realise what it is until it suddenly pops its head out. As you may well have guessed by now, we also don't know much about the worm's breeding behaviour, but we do know how many other species of scale worm breed, and so it's not unreasonable to assume the Antarctic scale worm breeding behaviour
was the time where Garfield mania was truly at its peak. And like many Generation X parents, he wanted to pass on to me all of the pop culture phenomenons that he had grown up loving. And it happens to turn out that about a week of Garfield comics fits perfectly on one front and back sheet of paper. So, every few weeks, he would print out a couple pages of Garfield comics, in chronological order. He would bring these home, put them in a binder, and he'd let me read them. So, it came to be that about once a month, I would get to read a couple weeks of 30-year-old newspaper strips about a fat cat who hates Mondays and loves lasagna. This was my favorite thing in the entire world. One day, after a few years of this, Dad came home and told me he had some big news. Because he had been printing out Garfield strips slightly faster than they were being published, he had eventually caught up. That week, I only had one page of Garfield comics to read. The comics from that very week. I remember feeling this odd swell of pride at the mere thought that I had managed to read every Garfield comic that had ever been printed. I wondered for a moment if anyone else on the planet could make such a claim, of being so dedicated or so lucky that they hadn't missed a single panel of the series in its 30-year run. As an adult, my bond with Garfield is sort of complicated. For many years, when I would be around friends and they would joke about how lame he is or how unfunny the comic is, I would laugh along and joke about how silly it is that I used to be so obsessed with the character. But when I go to the thrift store and I see a Garfield plush on the shelf that
Garfield is still real to me!
It fills me with a level of euphoria that can only be described as totally authentic. And so, when I sat down earlier this year and decided that I wanted a break from YouTube, and that a vacation or two might be in order, I realized the most on-brand thing to do would be to find a way to have a vacation dedicated entirely to Garfield. Now, if you're looking to plan your very own Garfield vacation, there are a couple interesting options which you might consider looking into. In Idaho, there's a theme park called Silverwood, which has adopted Garfield as its mascot and main walk-around character. Meanwhile, in Pennsylvania, you'll find a completely different seasonal theme park named Kennywood, which features a Splash Mountain-like dark ride named Garfield Nevermind It's Gone. You could swing by Toronto or London, Canada and get a mouthful of Garfield-themed pizza and lasagna, alongside the famed Garfuccino. Or if you're willing to venture even further and wait for traveling overseas to become a good idea again, you could hit up Six Flags China in a couple years, which is prompting to open its own Garfield Dark Ride, which will feature a series of impressive animatronics recently unveiled at a popular amusement parks convention. But seeking to take a Garfield vacation and choosing any of these options, at least to me, would feel a little bit inauthentic. Garfield is a brand that decidedly has a concrete history and background that one has the chance to explore, and choosing to instead seek out attractions in Canada or China or Idaho would be depriving oneself of the true culture that can be found elsewhere. So instead of doing any of those things, I chose to take a trip to Indiana, the Garfield Holy Land. Now, full disclosure, did I really take this trip entirely to get away from work? Yes and no. In reality, I came here looking for answers about the greatest uncovered pages in Garfield history. Indiana was the place where Jim Davis grew up, where he found his passion as an artist, and I discovered that by looking in the right places, I could discover stories untold about the evolution of his work. So this video is going to be a documentation of this trip I took, and indeed my best guide on how to take a Garfield vacation. But it's also going to have a historical element, and will basically be switching back and forth between discussing previously lost Davis history and showing the many wonders you can discover if you know where to look. Now, there was one group who ended up making this trip ultimately possible, and that was my Patreon supporters. Doing this trip was actually a Patreon stretch goal that we managed to reach quite a while ago, and basically all of the costs of this project I was able to pay because of that secondary support. I don't know if you guys know this, but AdSense is terrible this year. Patreon is also the reason I've been able to afford to put all these nice little animations in the video. So if you want to appreciate all of the unique things we do in this video and you want to see more stuff like that in the future, the biggest way to tell me that is to just pledge $1 or $2. And now, it's time to jump back in time, nearly 75 years. This is gonna get borderline stalkerish. Just roll with it. If you drive to the small community of Fairmount, Indiana, you might spot a sign welcoming you to the town, although sadly, I missed this when I visited. It reads, Fairmount, where cool was born, and features images of the town's two greatest idols, James Dean and Garfield the cat. Fairmount is indeed where James Dean was born and raised, and this has led townsfolk in the last 70 years to seek out archiving and displaying every relic of his upbringing that they can find. Sadly, the same cannot be universally said of Fairmount's other famous alumni, Jim Davis, the creator of Garfield. James Robert Davis was born in 1945, shortly before the end of the Second World War. He was named after his father, James William Davis, who was named after his father, James Garfield Davis, who was named after the assassinated president, James A. Garfield. Although his parents were farmers, he was often sick during his childhood and thus rarely could help out on the homestead. Instead, he developed a passion for drawing, inspired by magazines such as Ripley's Believe It or Not. And while his earliest work was sketchy, to say the least, by the time he had entered Fairmount High School in the 1960s, he had become well known as an advanced student of art, or in other words, the artsy kid. The caption below his photo in his class yearbook aptly predicts,
"If this lad develops his artistic skill, his drawings will take care of any big bill."
Now, Fairmount was a small town and was apparently very invested in the activities of their local high school, which means that the town's adult newspaper had a regular section recapping any and all events in the lives of their students. I literally know what 17-year-old Jim Davis did for his Christmas vacation. This is really weird and a little bit sad, but mostly useful for historical purposes. It's because of all of this that we know that Jim Davis joined his journalism class at the start of his senior year, and began working as an editor on his school newspaper, which was titled The Breeze. But only a few months after he joined the class, he apparently was promoted to a special position on the staff.
Ooh, a special position.
62 explains.
Jim Davis, advanced art student and member of the journalism class, is going to prepare a cartoon for the remaining Breezes this year. The main characters in his cartoon will be Herbie, a freshman. Jim says he is an example of a typical greenie. Herman will represent the seniors. Jim plans to be an art teacher in the future.
That's right. The first ongoing newspaper strip Jim ever created or worked on was something he did for his school newspaper. 5 months after this mystery comic was announced, Jim graduated with honors, and since The Breeze was a weekly newspaper, this means that there were likely just under 20 issues featuring this cartoon. Now, trying to find any of these comics was a daunting task, because the school we're talking about here literally collapsed in on itself almost a decade ago. I contacted numerous people in Fairmount and was eventually able to find out that the town's museum was aware of some collection of these newspapers. From what I understood, these were literally physical copies of the newspapers sitting around in some old boxes.
Thinking of playing a game, I just don't know what game I feel like playing.
These archives suddenly stopped after the end of the war, meaning that we have 0 issues to show for this discovery. I don't even know what the strip's title is because the article we mentioned before fails to mention it. I'm just gonna start calling it Lil Folk. That's not taken, right? Miraculously, though, we still have some material from this series, as Jim was also asked to contribute art to his class's senior yearbook. And it seems like he essentially reused the cast of his comic for this project. This one-panel cartoon, one of 2 appearing below the senior Wills pages, is the earliest comic strip we have created by Jim Davis.
And to my Playboy son, whom I promised to mention in my will, hi there, Gary.
I find the art style used in this yearbook to be odd but interesting, in that it looks more like a Bones fan comic than something created by the guy who would later invent Garfield the cat. Although this brief sketch of a cat sitting on a fence with a flower pot flying towards it is very much something foreshadowing his later work. After Jim Davis died, very much
I just love Garfield catches it, throws it back.
something foreshadowing his later work. After Jim Davis
Did Garfield just
graduated
kill an
from
old man?
college, he got a job working as an assistant on the comic Tumbleweeds, created by Tom Ryan. Enjoying the job but desperate to create something of his own, he began submitting concepts to various newspapers across Indiana. Against all odds, a single newspaper was impressed enough with Davis's work to hire him. He would contribute art to the letters to the editor page of the small-town newspaper The Pendleton Times, which was pretty irregular considering that these sections were most traditionally reserved for political gags or caricatures. Instead, Jim would create a weekly panel-bound sitcom starring the most relatable of all potential characters: Bugs. Filthy, disgusting, bottom feeder, Bugs. Jim Davis has often talked
I remember
about
reading a
Norm
few
Nat
of
in
those
interviews
Norm
or
Nat.
anniversary collections, and it's always been something that stood out to me.
Norm
Remember,
Nat.
I was the kid who found pride in the idea of having read every Garfield comic on the planet. The idea that there was this whole range of comics that no one had seen for decades, it fascinated and pissed me off in equal amounts, even from the youngest of ages. But things took a turn for the more extreme last year, when, while trying to find copies of any Norm Nat comics I could for a short film I was making, a librarian in Pendleton revealed to me a second comic series Jim had created which I had never heard of. Titled simply John, the series began in 1976 and featured prototype versions of all of the Garfield cast, all written and drawn in ways that I had never seen before. I had told myself 10 or 15 years ago that I had read every Garfield comic ever.
That's pretty neat. Do some karaoke for a bit, I guess. tee boom, boom tee tee boom, boom tee boom. Oh wait, I think I remember. I'm trying to remember if this works. If I stream and sing at the same time. Oh, maybe it does work. Okay, maybe we're okay then. Yesterday it was like running really slow when I tried to do it, so. I'll try. Ocean man, take me by the hand to the promised land. Ocean man. Okay, hope my mic isn't too loud. Should be alright there. Ocean man, take me by the hand to the promised land that you understand. Ocean man, the voyage to the corner of the globe is a real trip. Ocean man, the crust of a tan man imbibed by the sand, soaking up the thirst of the land. Ocean man, can you see the wonder of amazement at the Oberman? Ocean man, the crust is elusive when it casts forth to the childlike man. Ocean man, the sequence of a life form braced in the sand, soaking up the thirst of the land. Ocean man. Ocean man. Ocean man. Ocean man, take me by the hand, lead me to the land that you understand. Ocean man, the voyage to the corner of the globe is a real trip. Ocean man, the crust of a tan man imbibed by the sand, soaking up the thirst of the land. Ocean man, can you see through the wonder of amazement at the Oberman? Ocean man, the crust is aloof when it casts forth to the childlike man. Ocean man, the sequence of a life form braced in the sand, soaking up the thirst of the land. Ocean man. Sweet. Ocean man, take me by the hand to the promised land that you understand. Ocean man, the voyage to the corner of the globe is a real trip. Ocean man, the crust of a tan man imbibed by the sand, soaking up the thirst of the land. Ocean man, can you see the wonder of amazement at the Oberman? Ocean man, the crust is elusive when it casts forth to the childlike man. Ocean man, the sequence of a life form braced in the sand, soaking up the thirst of the land. Ocean man. How do you do... Wait, how do you do karaoke of Bangarang? Oh, I see. Hey, Jude. Hey. Hey. Hey, oh, hey, oh, bum. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Na 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 na. Hey, Jude. Na na na. Boom. Yeah, I'll try this. Whatever. What have I got to lose? Hey, Jude, don't make it bad. Take a sad song and make it better. Remember to let her into your heart. Then you can start to make it better. Hey, Jude, don't be afraid. You were made to out and get her. The minute you let her under your skin, then you begin to make it better. And anytime you feel the pain, hey Jude, refrain. Don't carry the world upon your shoulders. For well you know that it's a fool who plays it cool by making his world a little bit colder. Na 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 na. Hey Jude, don't let me down. You have found her, now go out and get her. Remember to let her into your heart, then you can start to make it better. So let it out and let it in. Hey Jude, begin. You're waiting for someone to perform with. And don't you know that it's just you? Hey Jude, you'll do. The movement you need is on your shoulder. Na 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 na, yeah. Hey Jude, don't make it bad. Take a sad song and make it better. Remember to let her under your skin, then you'll begin to make it better, 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 yeah, nah, yeah, yeah, make it better. Hey Jude, na 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 na. Hey Jude, na 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 na. Hey Jude, na 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 na. Hey Jude, 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 Joe. Wow. Jude, oh na na na. Jude, 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 Jude. Yeah, 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 hey. Yeah, you know you couldn't make it. Jude, you're not gonna break it. Don't make it bad, Jude. Take a sad song and make it better. Hey, Jude, Jude, hey, Jude. Wah! Oh, Jude. Hey, Jude. Hey Jude, hey, 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 yeah, hey. Na 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 na. Hey now, Jude, 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 yeah, yeah, yeah. Na 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 na. Hey, no, 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 na 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 na. Hey Jude, no, 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 na 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 na. Na 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 na. Hey Jude. Na 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 na. Na 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 na. Hey Jude. Yeah! Hey, 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 yeah! Make it through! Yeah, 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 yeah! Yeah, yeah! Yeah, 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 yeah! Ah, yeah! Do you listen, ma? Na, 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 na. Na 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 na, hey Jude. Na 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 na. Na 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 na, hey Jude. Yeah yeah, na 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 na. Na 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 na, hey Jude. Jude, 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 Jude. Oh, Jude. Hey Jude, don't make it bad. Take a sad song and make it better. Remember to let her into your heart. Then you can start to make it better. Hey Jude, don't be afraid. You were made to go out and get her. The minute you let her under your skin, then you begin to make it better. Na, na, yeah. Hey Jude, don't make it bad. Take a sad song and make it better. Remember to let her under your skin. Then you'll begin to make it better, 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 better. Yeah, 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 yeah. Make it better. Hey Jude. Na 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 na. Na 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 na. Hey Jude. Jude, 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 Jude. Wow. Jude, oh na na na. Make it, Jude, you're not gonna break it. Don't make it bad, Jude. Take a sad song and make it better. Hey Jude, Jude, hey Jude. Oh Jude. Hey Jude, hey Jude. Hey, 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 yeah, hey. Na, na, Ah, oh, ah. Ooh, bet you're wondering how I knew about your plan to make me blue with some other guy that you knew before. Between the two of us guys, you know I loved you more. Took me by surprise, I must say, when I found out yesterday. Ooh, I heard it through the grapevine. Not much longer would you be mine. Oh, I heard it through the grapevine. And I'm just about to lose my mind. Honey, honey, yeah. Clap, 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 clap. You know a man ain't supposed to cry, but these tears I can't hold inside. Losing you would in my life, you see, 'cause you mean that much to me. You could have told me yourself that you found someone else. Instead, I heard it through the grapevine. Not much longer would you be mine. Oh, I heard it through the grapevine. And I'm just about to lose my mind. Honey, honey, yeah. People say you hear from what you see, not from what you hear. I can't help but being confused. If it's true, won't you let me do you plan to let me go for the other guy that you knew before? Ooh, I heard it through the grapevine. Not much longer would you be mine. Oh, I heard it through the grapevine. And I'm just about to lose my mind. Honey, honey, yeah. Picking them grapes off the grapevine. What's that, grapes? You got something to say? What you talking about, grapes? Through the grapevine? You heard it? No. Oh, I heard it through the grapevine. Not much longer would you be mine. Ooh, I heard it through the grapevine. And I'm just about to lose my mind. Oh, I heard it through the grapevine. I keep alternating between like a higher pitch and lower pitch thing, I guess. Trying to get the higher one. You're wondering how I knew about your plan to make me blue with some other guy that that you knew before. Between the two us guys, you know I loved you more. Took me by surprise, I must say, when I found out yesterday. Ooh, I heard it through the grapevine. Not much longer would you be mine. Oh, I heard it through the grapevine, and I'm just about to lose my mind. Honey, honey, yeah. Clap, 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 clap. Clap, 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 clap. Clap. Honey, honey, yeah. Clap, 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 clap. Oh, tears I can't hold inside. Losing your wood in my life, you see. 'Cause you mean that much to me. You could have told me yourself that you found someone else. Instead, I heard it through the grapevine. Not much longer would you be mine. Oh, I heard it through the grapevine, and I'm just about to lose my mind. Honey, honey, yeah. Hear from what you see, not from what you hear. I can't help but being confused. I don't have any ponytails, which is a real bummer. Yeehaw! Milady. Wait, I thought I already had the cowboy hat. What? So what's the difference? Oh, this is the long-haired one. Okay.
There we go. When I wake up, well, I know I'm gonna be. When I wake up, well, I know I'm gonna be the man who wakes up next to you. I don't hear any fucking guiding vocals. When I go out, yeah, I know I'm gonna be the man who goes along with you. If I get drunk, well, I know I'm gonna be the man who gets drunk next to you. And if I haven't, I don't know that word, yeah, I know I'm gonna be the man who's heavering to you.
But I would walk 500 miles and I would walk 500 more just to be the man who walked 5,000 miles to fall down at your door when I'm working. Yes, I know I'm gonna be the man who's working hard for you. And when the money comes in for the work I do, I'll pass almost every penny on to you. When I come home, when I'm gonna be the man who comes home back to you. And when I grow old, well, I know I'm gonna be the man who's growing old with you. But I would walk 500 miles and I would walk 500 more just to be the man who walked 5,000 miles to fall down at your door. Da-da-da, da-da-da, da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da, da-da-da, da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da.
That part's kind of fun.
So full disclosure, I'm not Scottish.
Well, I know I'm gonna be the man who's lonely without you. And when I'm dreaming,
I mean, there might be some Scottish in my family.
I'm gonna dream about the time when I'm with you. When I go out, yeah, I know I'm gonna be the man who goes along with you. And when I come home, yes, I know I'm gonna be the man who comes back home with you. I'm gonna be the man who's coming home with you. Panda's screen froze, I'm like...
But I would walk 500 miles and I would walk 500 more just to be the man who walked 5,000 miles to fall down at your door. Da la da, da la da, da 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 da. And I would walk 500 miles and I would walk 500 more just to be the man who walked 1,000 miles to fall down at your door. Ran out of breath.
I like those high notes. They can...
I love those high notes.
Oh, I don't have a beat.
They can...
There we go. When I wake up, well, I know I'm gonna be the man who... If I get drunk, well, I know I would walk 500 to you. But I would walk fucking that note's too high. I would walk 500 more just to be the man who walks 5,000 miles to fall down. It's not loud enough. I can't hear the guiding vocals loud enough.
Yes, I know I'm gonna be the man who's working hard for you. And when the money comes in for the work I do, I'll pass almost every penny on to you. When I come home, when I'm gonna be the man who comes home back to you. And when I grow old, well, I know I'm gonna be the man who's growing old with you. But I would walk 500 miles and I would walk 500 more just to be the man who walks 5,000 miles to fall down at your
That part's kind of fun.
So full
That's like
disclosure,
my favorite part.
I'm not Scottish.
When I'm lonely, well, I know I'm gonna be the man who's lonely without you. And when I'm dreaming,
I mean, there might be some Scottish
well,
in
I
my
know I'm
family.
gonna dream about the time when I'm with you. When I go out, yeah, I know I'm gonna be with you. I'm gonna be the man who's coming with you. I would walk 500. The screen froze. I'm like, but I would walk 500 miles, and I would walk 500 more just to be the man who walked 5,000 miles to fall down at your door.
The devil went down to Georgia. He was looking for a soul to steal. So this is devil went. Okay, I got to do that. Hello, Kyonkochan comrades! Now, as I am understanding of this, we are going down to Georgia, that is place in Cookies Mountains, yes? Devil is there and we will deal with him. So here we go. Enjoy, comrades. Been 10 long years since the devil laid his fiddle at Johnny's feet, and it burned inside his mind the way he suffered that defeat. The sin of pride the devil cried is what will do you in. I thought we had this settled. I'm the best there's ever been. Truth is, I haven't played much since Baby came in June, but give me half a minute and I will get his fiddle back in tune. The devil grabbed the golden fiddle out of Johnny's hand and said,
Boy, I'm a fiddle player underground, and I walk upon the land.
Ah, yes. He's beautiful, he's fiddle like old country. Ah, Georgia. It makes me cry sometimes, the beauty of the fiddle. Johnny, are you practicing or will your hand grow cold? The devil walks the land, he plays a fiddle made of gold. Can you hear the baby crying? Will he ever know? The devil wants his daddy's very soul.
Yeah, so what you gonna do?
Well, get you, fiddle devil, and you think that you can win? Cause I beat you once, you crazy old dog, and I will whip your butt again. Johnny Brown, the devil is red. My little baby loves shortening bread. Devil dreams that he can win. But Johnny is the best that's ever been. Cheeky breaky. Up, 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 up. Yes, that is wonderful, Kazachok. You dance wonderfully, comrades. I love you all. Ha ha ha. It is wonderful to be here in Georgia. Next time I will not invade when I want to come. I am only kidding, I'm only kidding. By the way, where is your passport? Hello, Keon comrades. Now, as I am understanding of this, we are going down to Georgia. That is placing Cookies Mountains, yes? Devil is there and we will deal with him. So here... Hello, Keon comrades. Now, as I am understanding of this, we are going down to Georgia. That is placing Cookies Mountains, yes? Devil is there and we will deal with him. So here we go. Enjoy, comrades. Been 10 long years since the devil laid his feet at Johnny's feet. And it burned inside his mind the way he suffered that defeat. So the pride the devil cried is what will do you in. I thought we had this settled. I'm the best there's ever been.
Did you ever know that time keeps marching on? The coldest hour is the one who comes just before the dawn. The devil's back in Georgia, will you stand up to the test? Will you let the devil be the best?
The devil grabbed the golden fiddle at the... But give me half a minute and I will get this fiddle back. Truth is, I haven't played much since baby came in John. But give me half a minute and I will get this fiddle back in tune. The devil grabbed the golden fiddle at the Johnny's hand and said,
Boy, I'm a fiddle player, algebra, and I walk upon the land.
Ah, yes. He is beautiful, his fiddle like old country. Ah, Georgia. Makes me cry sometimes, the beauty of the fiddle. Wait, so how does open mic work? Just I don't know. I don't get how that works. Chain, chain, chain. Chain, chain, chain. Chain, chain, chain. Chain of fools. Oh, you got me where you want me. I ain't nothing but your fool. You treated me mean. Oh, you treated me cruel. Chain, chain, chain. Chain of fools. You told me to leave you alone. My father said, come on home. My doctor said, take it easy. But your loving is much too strong. I'm added to your chain. Chain, chain, chain. Chain, chain, chain. Chain of fools. But up until then, yeah, I'm gonna take all I can take, oh yeah. Chain, chain, chain. Chain, chain, chain. Oh, oh, oh. Chain, chain, chain. Chain of fools. Oh, yeah. That was a little rough, sorry.